and what we came to understand, all scripture is literal and is metaphorical. Mm-hmm. He's poetic like that. Like So go teach away.
So he says, I'm going to bring you flowers, but the flowers are already here, and then you're going to get flowers later on. Right. So you'd be like, whoa, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I already have flowers, huh? I just made use that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I was going to say that they've been there for
Yeah, they've already been there.
Yeah.
You're like, wait a minute, the flowers were already here, but then he gave you new flowers, and yet flowers are yet to come.
Yeah.
See, all prophecy is always done, and Maury we shared this once. All prophecy comes at least 4 different levels.
Yeah.
Right.
So you see some things immediately. You see some things that have already expired, and you see some things coming, and some things are like easy for you to understand, and some things you can't understand until other things in life manifest themselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like you would never understand Revelations back in the 60s the way you understand it in 2018.
Absolutely.
Because when he talks about the 2 dead prophets rising up and the whole world seeing it, you had no concept that everybody could see that. You're like
at the same time.
At the same time.
Now you got YouTube.
Now you got YouTube. You got Facebook Live. We'll be airing this live for across the world until for the next 7 days.
Yep.
And so everybody's looking at it. And when
a glimpse of that in the 60s, though, when
the moon.
No. You're right. Yeah, that's one. When they went to the moon, and we were in school, and they had the TV in school, and
Hollywood.
We watched
Hollywood
it.
Swing.
But the one I was actually thinking about was when Kennedy was killed. I remember that they actually brought a TV into our room. Like all the kids came into the same room.
Mass trauma.
Yeah, and she was showing it on the news, and so I know all of the world was looking at that. But we weren't thinking in that realm that everybody in the world was watching that. We were young. I guess I was probably in the 3rd or 4th grade, and so you didn't have that concept in your mind because the world was very, very big at that. Back in the 60s to us, the world was very big. Now, over the years, we've seen this transition. We've lived through the transition of the world being smaller and smaller.
Absolutely.
And even that was tape delayed.
Right.
Like it seemed like it was real, seemed like it was live, but it was recorded. Now it's literally live.
Right.
It's live and in living color.
Right.
And people are getting shot down live. And they're showing it on TV, on their little Facebook pages like it's nothing.
Right.
Like the somewhere it says that our enemy will be draped in violence, like wearing it like a cloth.
Right.
That's crazy to think those terminologies, like like their whole mindset. There's the concept of what's going on today. There's 2 things that they're draped in: lust and death. It's like everywhere. They have it. They don't mind putting skulls on them because they want to show that they have a fascination for death. They don't mind wearing stuff that makes them look like whatever because they have a fascination for lust. Anyway, that's a whole nother story.
No, we're on the same page. Ezekiel 37.
When I was a child, I thought as a child, I acted as a child, and I behaved as a child. One of the things that I watched on TV as a child was a TV show. This TV show was called Combat. And Combat, I almost can remember the actor's name. Connors? Anyway, this show every week was about an army fighting, and it was a political thing to get you to believe that we were the right guys and everybody else was the bad guy, right? They did this a lot with, you've seen it with the Cowboys and the Indians, right? The Cowboys were always the good guys, and the F Troop, all the Indians were always the bad guy. Well, this TV show was a dramatic TV show that emphasized this certain battalion. As the day goes on, as we move closer to 12 o'clock midnight, the coming of Yeshua the Hamashiach, when we get closer to his return, something is going to happen that is going to be, that it's already happening. If you look at prophecy, his army is arising. When he says, can these bones live? Last week we shared about these bones living. In verse 10, he says that I so prophesy that he commanded me and breathed unto them, and they lived, and they stood up on their feet, and an exceeding great army. So they turned the people that rised up. He considered them to be an army.
Right.
So we talked about the analogy of metaphors. The metaphor that he used for his people rising up was that they would be an army. So we want to look at this army and the classifications or qualifications required to be in this army. The key to this whole message that we're going to be reading and studying is that at the end, we win.
Right.
So we already know the ending. And speaking of TVs and movies, when I look at a movie, if I already know what the ending's going to be, right. they say spoiler alerts, right? I'm like, oh, now you done spoiled it. I don't even really want to watch it. So even if it's a documentary, I'm like, well, we know at the end he gets shot.
Right.
Because it's supposed to be in real life. We know that he died at the end.
Right.
So why am I going to look at it? But we look at it anyway because it has some nuances to it, some things about it that you really didn't know. All you knew was Abe Lincoln was shot.
Right.
So you look at the movie to find out more of the life of Lincoln, what led up to his death, right? So in this scenario, we know this army wins, right? I never wanted to be in the army. I signed up for the Navy once, only because I thought maybe if I'm in the Navy, I wouldn't have to kill anybody, be on the ship somewhere, right? Because I didn't want to get killed and didn't want to kill. I just never felt right with me. Well, this army, I don't mind being a part of because I know at the end, I win, right? So we're going to look at the army, starting at verse 15, because he starts talking. This was Yechezk'el, when he speaks, he often will say that the word of Yahweh came to him. And it either told him to speak to a people, preach to the wind, speak to the pastors or the elders, right? Yah directed him and told him who to speak to. So let's start at 15, and let's just read through it for a minute, and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit. 15, Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 15.
Last week, did we read the beginning of that?
Yes, we read 1 through
That's what,
1 through 14.
14. That's what okay.
The word of the Lord, the word of Elohim came again unto me, saying, Moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick, and write upon it for Judah, and for the children of Israel his companions. Then take another stick, and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel his companions, and join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, Wilt thou not shew us what thou meanest by these? Say unto them, Thus saying Yahuwah Elohim, Behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. And the sticks whereon thou writest shall be in thine hand before their eyes. And say unto them, Thus saying Yahuwah Elohim, Behold, I will take the children of Israel from among the heathen, whither they be gone, and will gather them on every side, and bring them into their own land. And I will make them one nation in the land upon the mountains of Israel, and one king shall be king to them all, and they shall be no more two nations, neither shall they be divided into two kingdoms any more at all. Neither shall they defile themselves any more with their idols, nor with their detestable things, nor with any of their transgressions. But I will save them out of all their dwelling places, wherein they have sinned, and will cleanse them. So shall they be my people, and I will be their God. And David my servant shall be king over them, and they shall all have one shepherd. They shall also walk in my judgments, and observe my statutes, and do them. Keep going.
That's good. Okay, so the church has taken the place and tried to replace what we're looking at here. Let's look at eschatology. Eschatology is talking about end times. This is the end time. But what we see, the church wants to tell you that Jesus is going to come. He's going to rapture you away, take you away, la 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 land, and everything going to be peachy and keen and clean. That is not how it goes down, according to Scripture.
Nope.
According to Scripture, there's only one church, there's only one Yah, and there's only one baptism. We're going to go to Ephesians. I have a few verses that I really want us to pull out. First, before we go to Ephesians chapter 2, chapter 4. Before we go to Ephesians 4, put your finger in it and hold it. Let's go to Deuteronomy, the 30th chapter. Exodus. Let's go to Exodus 12. Exodus 12, 48 and 49. I want to make a point. Yah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He never sets something in order and then disrupts it and starts all over again. When he started his plan with his people, he chose the people. He said, "You are my people. I've chosen you above all other people." He has never gotten rid of that plan. He's always chosen us above all other people. He says, when other people come and be a part of you, then they can be they can be drafted in. And even today, the sojourner can be drafted in. But for us to think that he said, I'm done with you guys, and just picking and choosing any old body, any old where, and setting aside his chosen people is a falsehood.
Right.
So let's read that.
48 and 49.
Yes.
If a stranger shall sojourn with you and would keep the Passover to Elohim, let all his males be circumcised, then he may come near and keep it. He shall be a native of the land. But no uncircumcised person shall eat of it. There shall be one law for the native and for the stranger who sojourns among you.
Okay, so there's one law. The law is the law. If you are in Philadelphia and you get pulled over by the police officer, he's going to read you the Miranda rights.
Yeah.
If you get pulled over in New Jersey by a police officer, he's going to do what?
Read you those rights.
Read you the right. If you're in Texas
You get Miranda.
and you get pulled over,
Right.
now this is technically what they're supposed to do, right? All of them have a code that we're supposed to abide by, even though we know that they don't.
They don't do it.
They don't do it,
Right.
right? But they have a code because they all know that there's a federal law that covers everybody in the United States. When you walk into the kingdom, you have one law. The law don't change. He don't change, and the law doesn't change. So let's go to Ephesians, because if even in the New Testament, it still shows that it's still one law. Ephesians 4, 1 through 7. Somebody?
I therefore, the prisoner of Elohim, beseech you that you walk worthy of the vocation wherewith you were called, with all lowliness and meekness, with long suffering, forbearing one another in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace.
Okay, we're going to hold up for a minute.
Okay.
This law, this is the requirements of the army, right? Mm-hmm. That we do what? That we want to walk worthy of the vocation which we were called. Right. In all lowliness, in meekness, in long suffering, forbearing one another, in love, endeavoring to keep the unity of the Spirit, or the Ruach, in the bond of peace. Continue.
There is one body and one spirit.
How many bodies?
One body and one spirit.
There's one body. There's no Catholic. There's no Baptist. There's no Methodist. There's no Episcopal. Yeah. No Pentecostal. Yeah. There's one body. This is going out to the world, so hopefully the world hears it. There is only one body. He doesn't have his body all separated into all these divisions. Nope. There's only one body. If I walk into a Hebrew Israelite gathering, it's the same. He should have the same doctrine that I have, because it's one body. You can't go into a church and claim to be Baptist and believe what they believe if they're Methodist, because they have divisions, because it's not one body. There's a problem there. There's a problem when you go into a sanctuary and half the people are shouting and the other half are saying that's not godly, and they're supposed to be of one body. He has never changed. He says back in Deuteronomy that there's one law. There's one law. The only division that was ever seen in his body was when the camps, the tribes split. And when the tribes split, the problem that occurred is the northern tribes started taking on all the characteristics of the Greeks. So when they came back to their own land, they couldn't even speak their own language. So when the Ruach came, he had to come and he had to speak in multiple languages so that they would understand what was going on. That's why they said, oh, I understand what he's saying. And someone else said, you understand? I thought you spoke a different language. We've taken that thing and turned it into some crazy, bizarre thing that you go into a church and people, smack you in your mama's face, smack. It's like, what? Did you say you're going to smack my mama's face?
Right. No interpreter.
No.
No interpreter.
Everybody's...
Find me a church that speaks in tongues and has interpreters. Hold up a minute, because you may be looking and think you found one. Go to 1 Corinthians and it's going to tell you that if there is a speaking of tongues, there's only 3, never more. So if you do more than 3 and you don't have an interpreter, you're out of order.
More than 3 people.
More than 3 people, not 3 gatherings, not 3 groups. Right? It says it right in the word. We don't read the book. And then we're offended when somebody tells you you're wrong. Right? I didn't even talk about Christmas yet. Or eating pigs.
What's wrong with that?
Because you think that's good. This is so bizarre to me that we can think that it's good for somebody to sell you pigs and disgusting food, but you're offended when somebody chases you out of Starbucks. Yeah, that's something to think about. I have to throw that out there. Since this is going worldwide. Did we finish reading it?
No.
Okay, finish reading.
That's all good.
There's one body.
There's one body and one spirit.
One Ruach.
Even as you are called in one hope of your calling.
One.
One Elohim.
One Elohim.
One faith.
One faith.
One baptism.
One baptism. If you are not in a gathering with his called out chosen people, you're not in the fellowship with Almighty Yah. You may be in fellowship with God. You may be in fellowship with Jesus, but you're not in fellowship with the one that wrote the book. There's only one Elohim. What is the first commandment?
Love Yah.
Love Yah with all your heart. What's number 2? You'll not have another Elohim. We got so many things that we do wrong. By the time we get down to 4, we already jacked it all up. So no need us going to church on Saturday. May as well do it on Sunday. We're already screwed up 1, 2, and 3. Graven images.
Sorry, first one is have no gods before me.
Have no gods before me.
I thought I got that messed up.
All right. All right. Let's finish.
All right.
One Lord, one Yah.
One Yahuwah and Father of all, who is above all and through all and in you all. But unto every one of us is given grace according to the measure of the gift of Hamashiach. Wherefore, he says, when he ascended up on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts unto men. Now that he ascended, what is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? He that descended is the same also that ascended up far above all heavens, that he might fill all things. And he gave some apostles, and some prophets, and some evangelists, and some pastors, and teachers, for the perfecting of the saints, for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Hamashiach.
For the edifying of the body of the Mashiach. There's only one purpose that he's called us. So we go back to Ezekiel 37. There was a split. And because of the split, the tribes went north and 2 tribes stayed south. Right? In his providence, he says, write your name, write those names on the stick. And what did he say right when he said write those names? What did he say right?
The names of Judah.
Judah and what?
Israel.
Wait a minute. Judah what? Judah and something. Something's missing there.
For Judah and the people of Israel associated with him. And
Judah and the people of Israel that are associated with him. Right? So it didn't just have the stick on it. He wrote on there, Judah and those other people. You know, so we don't want to exclude everybody and say that he only coming back for us. He's coming back for us and the people that are drafted in, that are with us. And the other stick?
Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the house of Israel associated with him.
Right. So here he has the 2 sticks, and he brings them together, and then he says that they will be what? One. Why do we have 6,000 or more denominations? Where does that come from? Well, I like the carpet red. Now I like the carpet green. So the people on the carpet like the carpet red. Everybody goes to their right. Everybody like the green. And then you have separation. Okay, so what about worshiping I like worshiping on Saturday. Well, I like worshiping on Sunday. Is that separation?
Yes.
Yeah, but is that godly separation?
Absolutely
Outside of the
not.
law.
Is what?
It's outside of the law.
It's outside of the law.
No such thing as godly separation.
Right. It's not the only separation is we saw when the tribes separated, and they started taking on the characteristics of the heathen. And when you start blending, it's a sin. You start blending things start happening, strange things start happening. You start believing what they believe, you start doing what they do, you start acting like they act.
Free thinker.
You become a free thinker.
Yeah, we get that in the church.
So Yahweh says, at the end times, eschatology, right? At the end times, I'm going to regather you. I'm going to bring you back. And then I'm going to put you back into your land. So to get a better picture of what this looks like, of him bringing us back and getting us back into the land, we're going to look at Deuteronomy.
Can I give
Yes.
the verse for where my Bible says orderly worship is 1 Corinthians 14:26 to 29, and it's like the one part is like, but if they're talking about interpretation or speaking in tongues, if any man speak in a tongue, there be only 2 or 3 at the most.
Read that, like, what is it, 2 verses in there?
Yeah.
Read the 2 verses, because we don't want to take anything out of context.
Alright, what then, brothers, when you come together, each one has a hymn, a lesson, a revelation, a tongue, or an interpretation. Let all things be done for building up. If any speak in a tongue, let there be only 2 or at most 3, and each in turn, and let someone interpret. But if there is no one to interpret, let each of them keep silent in church and speak to himself and to Elohim.
Now see, most people, I'm going to say this. Most people that go to church don't know that verse because they don't read it. I hope that you're insulted by that, because most people don't read it. There's no way possible that you would have read that and went into a church and felt like the whole choir can sing in tongues.
The whole church.
The whole church, everybody. I've heard pastors stand up and say, everybody, come on, sing in your godly language. Preach, speak it up, come on. That is so ungodly. And for a godly man, supposedly, to stand up and to say that, I question his godliness. If you heard me, you can call me. Okay? You can leave a message on my YouTube page. That's in case he heard me. Yeah, I said it. Read the book. I don't want to offend you, but I hope the word does. Because we're supposed to be following the book. You know, when they came through the desert, they had a cloud of fire by night. They had a cloud that covered them during the day to keep them from the sun. They stayed under the cloud. When the cloud moved, they moved. When the cloud didn't move, they didn't move. Right? The book is supposed to be like that. It's supposed to give you instructions to lead you and to guide you. And if you're reading the book and you see something like that and you can't make the adjustment, then something else is leading you. Is not the cloud. What is it? I want to know. Is it because you've signed allegiance with the enemy? Because you know that we're not supposed to sign allegiance with the enemy, right? But somebody somewhere is thinking it's okay to do this because it's going to fill the seats. People like entertainment. You like entertainment more than you like Yah. I'll change that so to make it easier for you to understand. You like entertainment more than you like God. You like entertainment more than you like Jesus. That's who you call him. I don't call him by that because I believe that there's another force out there that people are being moved by. And that force is not the force of the Ruach, is not the force of Yahweh. So anyway, as we read through this, you see that these sticks become one, and he starts pulling out his people and bringing them back. So I had to find this one verse that is going to bring this all to light. Deuteronomy 30. And before we go any further, any questions so far? Because I don't want to say something that hurts them, that you don't understand. We good? Deuteronomy 30. I like this verse. Because
my chapter.
this is Lauren's favorite chapter, I think.
It's all marked up.
You gonna read, Robin?
What verse?
Start at 1. This is a good verse. It's kind of short.
And it shall come to
21
pass.
verse.
And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon you, the blessing and the curse which I have set before you, and you shall call them to mind among all the nations, whether Yahuwah Eloheka has driven you.
Okay, so Eloheka, Yahweh Eloheka, is a term of a personal Yah that's reaching out to you individual. It's not. That's why you're going to hear this throughout this chapter, because this is a personal thing. You know, we've heard this over and over again in our walk. it's not about a religion, it's about a personal relationship, right? Mm-hmm. In reality, that's true. He wants you to have a personal relationship. But a personal relationship means there's some requirements to be a part of this army, right? You can't just say, I got a personal relationship.
That's what Christians say.
Right.
Right.
I got a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Pass the joint.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pass the blunt. Whatever. Right? Coming out of somebody's bedroom. Somebody said, got a needle stuck in my arm. And I realize I'm the righteousness of Christ. No, you realize you're headed to hell. Okay. Verse 2.
And shall return unto Yahuwah Eloheka, and shall obey his voice according to all that I command you this day, you and your children, with all your heart and with all your soul. That then Yahuwah Eloheka will turn your captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations, whither Yahuwah Eloheka has scattered you. If any of yours be driven out unto the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will Yahuwah Eloheka gather you, and from thence will he fetch you. And Yahuwah Eloheka will bring you into the land which your fathers possessed, and you shall possess it, and he will do you good, and multiply you above your fathers. And Yahuwah Eloheka will circumcise your heart, and the heart of your seed, to love you, Yahuwah Eloheka, with all your heart, and with all your soul, that you may live. And Yahuwah Eloheka will put all of these curses upon your enemies, and on them that hate you, which persecuted you.
So, here we have our loving Father giving us a promise. He's going to call us out no matter where you are. He's going to pull you out. You may be in church. He's going to pull you out. You may not be in church. You could be in a Muslim in a mask. He's going to pull you out. His sovereign hand is going to reach down, and this is his army waking up. And for all those that have persecuted us, all those that have killed us, all those that have raped us, all those that have imprisoned us, have dragged us from our land, have placed us into this foreign land, all of them, he says, I will take the same penalty, the same punishment that was put on you will be turned. When I was, one of the most fascinating tools that I've ever witnessed is an hourglass. You turn it over, and in time, the sand comes from the top, and it makes its way down to the bottom. They figured out how much to put in there, that at a certain period of time, that thing will drop, all the sand will drop out, and it'll be the end of that time. They have small ones that are hourglasses. They have some that are like 3-4 hourglasses. And it will just sit there, and you'll just see sand twinkling down a little bit at a time until the end. And then someone will take that clock, flip it, and start turning it over. Yahweh is saying, in due time, when my hour clock has exceeded its limit, I will flip it. And when I flip it, the ones that are persecuting us will be the ones that are being persecuted. Nobody wants to hear that, because that means the ones that have enslaved us will be the ones enslaved. Sounds cruel and unusual punishment from a God. We'd rather have the sweet candy, give me a lollipop God. We don't want to see the God coming back with vengeance and wrath, and coming back with a sword to blood all the way up to the horse's bridle.
Isaiah 30:10. He talks about prophesy smooth things to us.
Mm-hmm.
Smooth things, soft.
Don't tell us don't tell us the truth. Give me something that's nice.
Pull it out. We're going to go there, okay?
Isaiah 30.
Hold your finger there, Robin. See, this is not one of those messages that everybody wants to hear. You're upset when you see people on the corner yelling and screaming at you. And I understand that some of their language may be a little bit foul, but some of their storyline is true. So you don't want to hear truth, you'd rather hear smooth. You got it?
Yep.
Isaiah chapter 30.
I'll start at 8.
Verse 8.
Now go write it before them in a table and note it in a book, that it may be for the time to come, forever and ever, that this is a rebellious people, lying children, children that will not hear the law of Elohim, which say to the seers, see not, and to the prophets, prophesy not unto us right things. Speak unto us smooth things, prophesy deceits. Get you out of the way, turn aside out of the path, cause the Holy One of Israel to cease from before us.
Now, so the Holy One of Israel is who's talking to you right now. Get rid of that voice. We don't want to hear that. Give us something. I need a smoothie. I need a smoothie, please. Give me something soft and sweet. Something gentle. Something that tickles my ears.
Love, love, love.
All we need is love. Do, 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 do. And there we go. Singing a lollipop, Tootsie Rolls, cotton candy song.
Ice cream.
And that makes us feel good. But that's not what he said, for us to shout loud, cry loud, and what?
Spare not.
Spare not. So this is a cry loud and spare not. We win.
Yeah.
The encouragement of the saints is we win. You may lynch us, we win. You may cut off our heads, we win. You may want to get rid of the holy ones of Israel, but we win. Let's go back to Deuteronomy. And this was a prophecy on those that are going to hear a voice but don't want to hear the true word of Yah. Where are we at, hon? 3?
No.
30.
8.
Deuteronomy 30, verse 8.
And you shall, did you get there, Mark?
Yep.
Okay. And you shall return and obey the voice of Yahuwah, and do all his commandments, which I command you this day. And Yahuwah Eloheka will make you plenteous in every work of your hand.
Keep his commandments. There's no way around it. Unless you just believe in a part of the book and not all of the book. Because Yahshua himself said, if you love me, you keep my commandments. Right? Right here he says, guard them. Protect them. Guard them with all your heart. Because that's your righteousness. Your righteousness is not that you just say that I believe in him. It's got to be followed up with action. I can't walk down the aisle and say I love my wife I love you with all my heart, all my soul, all my being, everything. And tomorrow I'm sleeping with some other woman.
Beating her.
Huh?
Or beating her.
Or beating
I
her.
love you too much.
I didn't realize that you were going to whack, 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 swat, swat. It's like, what? And you hear the woman that's abused telling the police officer, but he loves me. I'm like, what?
I shouldn't have put that on.
I didn't mean to call you. It was my fault.
Yeah.
Really? You with black eyes, you broken arms.
I should have heard him the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
What does the words in the book, when it describes us when we don't keep his commandments, it describes us as going out whoring.
Always.
The same analogy all the time. You're going out whoring. You're going out, you're prostitute. You're like, these are the analogies that he uses of his people when they turn away from him.
And some scripts very graphically describe the how bad he feels about when we do that.
And to put that in the book, like, I mean, he lays it out there.
Yeah.
And we act like, you know what the words are today? It's no big thing. But it's no big deal.
It's all good.
When he makes it a real clear, the word guard is the same word that he used in the New Testament, when he said the Ten Commandments. He says, number 4, guard this one. Out of all of them, he's like, put a guard on this one, protect it, remember it.
Remember this.
Because that's the one that one is so key to him is like, guard this with all that you have. The one that's trampled on most frequently by so many is the 4th commandment. We act like it doesn't really exist. And when you tell somebody that you're doing, what are you, Muslim? What are you, Seventh-day Adventist? It's like, no. Okay, so when he pulls those 2 sticks together, who is he pulling together? He's pulling together the ones that are keeping his commandments. It starts to make you wonder if those that profess themselves to be Christians, you start to make you wonder, where are they going? It starts to make you wonder, Lauren.
What, my question?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, I think people don't realize that they're not keeping the commandments because the pastors have been lying to them and telling them that Jesus is our Sabbath rest and we don't have to keep, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Like Kevin Brown did that
Yes.
lesson on Jesus is our Sabbath rest.
Revelation 18:4. I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out from her, my people, that ye be not partakers in her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues, for her sins have reached unto heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. They think that, like I used to always hear it said that, oh, Revelation, that ain't got nothing to do with America. That's over in Israel,
right?
And that's in the future, and the church ain't gonna be there. And that's the
May I be excused from the table, please?
the rapture.
Yeah.
I told you they did that in the Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's like they oh, this is a good thing. No, it's not. It's like the ones that are gonna get taken. You don't want to be in that group. Because taken doesn't have a Hebrew positive connotation. So they, like you said.
Now the next part of this verse that we're getting ready to read puts to death everyone that thinks that it's too hard for us to do. Because this I hear, so you can't keep all 649 of the law, right? You hear this kind of, you may as well sin like I sin.
Demonic activity.
It's demonic. It's not of Yah.
It's hellish.
And I've heard deacons come to me, preachers come to me, and pretty much like dispute it, like it's impossible to keep the law.
But they don't know the Shema.
Right.
They don't know that.
Definitely not.
So let's read this. 11. Deuteronomy 30, verse 11.
For this commandment which I command you this day, it is not hidden from you, neither is it afar off. It is not in heaven that you should say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea that you should say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very nigh unto you, in your mouth and in your heart, that you may do it. See, I have set before you this day life and death, life and good, and death and evil. In that I command you this day to love Yechezk'el, to walk in his ways, and to guard his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that you may live and multiply. And Yechezk'el shall bless you in the land whither you go to possess it. But if your heart turn away, so that you will not hear, but shall be drawn away, and worship other Elohim and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land, whether you pass over the Jordan to go to possess it. I call the heavens and the earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both you and your seed may live, that you may love Yechezk'el, and that you may obey his voice, and that you may cleave unto him. For he is your life and the length of your days, that you may dwell in the land which Yahuwah swore unto your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them.
So the qualifications to be in this king, in this army, is that you keep his commandments. If you're not keeping his commandments, I'm not going to say it. I let the book say it. Your days are going to be shortened. What does that mean? I will cut off your days. This heaven that you think you're going to, you're not going to make it. You may be on your way there, but you're not going to make it. You're going to die before you make it, because your days are going to be cut short. This is a scary text, because if you turn away and you start serving other else, and you start serving other where's it at? Let me find it.
Turn away the job. 17.
17.
Here, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them.
And serve them. If you let something draw you away. So I have to ask the question: what could possibly, if I love God, what could possibly draw me away?
Red lobster.
A red lobster. drawn away from a giant roach.
BLT.
A BLT. If I call them out, right? So if I tell you that in order to love God with all your heart, you can't eat pig. Most of you have already walked away as soon as you heard the P from out of the word pig, because you don't want anyone telling you what not to eat. Do you think eating is a problem? Okay, Genesis 1 talks about the creation. He creates people. He creates Adam. He creates Eve. He says, don't eat. So eating must have been a problem.
Absolutely.
The very first thing is don't eat. Right. Like, really? You made me, now you're going to tell me I can't eat? Like, you got all the rest of this food, but that tree over there, that pig tree, don't eat it. I just threw that out there, right? Whatever it was, that was enough for them to get kicked out of the garden. That was enough for us to feel that sinful nature in us. That was enough for us to have to sweat when we work. That was enough that when we give birth, we do it in pain. All because they ate one little thing. If we tell you don't eat something, wait a minute, I'm sure I can find it in this book, some way that I can get away with eating this.
The Gospel of Peter and Paul.
Go to Peter, go to Paul, and then you misquote them and you start reciting a lie. If they were here, they smack you in your face. You're telling me that these two people who walked with Jesus, I saw a truck that said barbecue, the kind of Jesus ate. When did Jesus ever eat a pig? Please help me. Somebody help me. When did any of the disciples, the last meal was not pig and lobsters.
White Jesus ate pig.
White Jesus ate pig, for real.
I want a picture of that truck.
I do have a picture.
We took a picture.
Oh, man.
And I thought, oh my goodness, it can't be that they're saying that he ate pig. Maybe he meant barbecue, beef barbecue. So I went to the website just to check it out. The first thing I saw was a big pink pig.
The unblemished lamb.
You don't think it's a problem when he gives you laws and tells you that these are things that you should eat and these are things that you should not eat.
I was going to pull it because I've been studying Isaiah 58 to like 62, been stuck in between there, but Isaiah 58, 13 and 14, it says, if you turn back your foot from the Sabbath, from doing your pleasure on my holy day, and call the Sabbath a delight, and the holy day of Yahuwah honorable, if you honor it, not going your own ways, or seeking your own pleasure, or talking idly, then you shall take delight in Yahuwah, and I will make you ride on the heights of the earth. I will feed you with the heritage of Jacob your father, for the mouth of Yahuwah has spoken.
So this is the word from out of the book that he tells you not to read. Who is he? If you go to Victory, if you go to what's the other one down here?
Name of Christian church.
Yeah, just any church.
Perfecting, St. Matthew's, right? You name them. Jericho First Baptist. I'm gonna call them out. Who?
Just all of them.
All of them.
Christian churches.
You're all headed in the wrong direction. I'll probably get a couple likes from you on that one, right? Hallelujah. Hallelujah. I'm not here to be a politician. So when you see me on the street, you're going to see the same person you see right now. I am a Hebrew Israelite. I follow Yeshua. Hallelujah. Cry loud and spare not. The book says that if you profane these things, he finds it, and I can take you back to Ezekiel, some verses where he says that you profane the Sabbath, and you think that it's a fine thing. You think that it's no big deal. It's a big deal. It's a super big deal. And if somebody doesn't try to help to righten the ship, there's too many of us going in the wrong direction. So we're here screaming out, sparing not, hoping that it touches somebody's ear, because there's a remnant out there of people that are willing to follow Yah with all their heart, with all their might. Do we have any questions?
Deuteronomy, what was that, 30?
Deuteronomy 30.
We finished reading that.
Okay.
And these were words that were written by Moshe. You may call him Moses. Does Moshe have the authority to share this, or do you think that he was just another average, ordinary Joe?
Complete autonomy.
Right? So there was a time when they wanted to put Moshe down. The other leaders came up against them. And they thought, you just trying to take over. You're just trying to usurp authority over us. Who made you our king? So let's go to Numbers. Chapter 15.
I think that's 16.
16.
If that's where you're going.
Yeah, that's where we're going. I was close. And when we were in Ephesians, there were a couple of verses there that talked about the hierarchy of the kingdom. So on this planet. So we got pastors, preachers, teachers. We read that earlier, right? To build up the kingdom. So back in the day, they had priests, right? And these priests were set up to orchestrate sacrifices, and they were put as a leadership position for the kingdom. This army that's rising up that we talked about in Yechezk'el 37, Ezekiel 37, it says that these armies going to rise up, these dead bones, he's going to put skin on them and flesh on them, he's going to breathe on them, and then they're going to stand. That is us rising up. But when we rise up, we will still be in an orderly fashion.
Right.
So he's not going to just rise us up and say we just walk around zombies. That's what it sounds like, right? Mm-hmm. They were dead. Now they're walking around and they're all like, I follow Yah, I follow Yah, I follow Yah, bumping into each other, right? No, he always does things in order. And so when he first came to Moses, when he first came to him, he put him ahead of everyone else because he used him as a leader for his people. He did the same thing when he raised up his son, Yeshua. He was the leader. Then he had his apostles and his prophets. They all rose up as leaders. When I want to do a study on some of the judges, because some of the judges were leaders. They led the people. Okay, so here we are where there's an episode, because we're stiff-necked. We don't want anybody telling us what to do. We don't want anybody telling us take the bacon off a burger. We don't want anybody telling us what time to show up. We don't want anybody, we want to do everything our way, right? We like Burger King. I want to do it my way, right? It don't work that way. And as Yah wakes up his people, he's going to wake them up. And he's going to put people in certain positions. And those people will be your leaders. And you need to fall in line and accept the positions that people give you.
When the Jehovah's Witness came to visit me, they was talking about the 144,000. And I'm like, those are Hebrews. And they're going to be people with authority based on Torah.
There you go.
It don't have nothing to do with I can't even remember the verse. It's a New Testament verse. I want to say Paul wrote it. He was a bad man, but he talks about what you're talking about, like compartmentalizing responsibilities. It had nothing to do with I'm up here and you down there.
Right.
You know.
So this verse came to us yesterday or the day before, and we were reading through it. Actually, Robin read through it, and we talked about it, and I said, this goes right along with my lesson plan. So here it is. Verse 6, chapter 16 of Numbers. Because, in a second.
Okay.
We want to find out what are the qualifications. We've talked about some of the qualifications in this army. Now, if you can be in the army and you can keep all the rules, you can do all the things that they ask you to do. You can move up in rank. But if you take a knife and you stab, even if you cut someone in the arm that's in your same army, right? They got to take you to court martial, and they may kick you out and say you're not qualified. I know, I've experienced it, right? Where they'll put you in the brig. I didn't experience it personally, but in my bloodline. They will put you in the brig, they'll take you to court martial, and then they will kick your little butt out. I almost said the A word. Praise Yah, it's Shabbat. They will kick you out because you no longer have the qualifications. Just like he said, if you start backsliding, right, and you start worshiping false Elohims, and you start doing other things, he says he will cut you off. So there's something to be said about these people wanting to know whether, can I lose my salvation? You know, am I saved, once saved, always saved?
Hoping for the best.
hoping for the best. Most of them are struggling with that because they're not keeping Torah. So yeah, you're going to question whether you're saved. You're not even keeping the words that he tells you to keep. You can't say, I love him with all my heart. Singing song, I love you. What's that song that they say? There's a song they say, I always love you. Oh, I do.
Oh, yes.
I really love you. Yes, I do. I really love you.
The tune might be a little off.
Yeah, the tune's off. But I'm trying to get the song back together, right? And I'm like, wait a minute.
Oh, because you first
loved me.
I
really love you. Yes, I do.
I ain't been to church.
I really love you.
I just remembered it.
I really love you. Yes, I do.
You haven't been to church.
Not in a while. I don't know them hymns.
How do you sing that song on the wrong day? You don't get it. But there is a spirit that makes you feel like I really love God. God did a really good thing for me. God healed me. God did this. God did that. But the question is, who is this God? Okay. I just wanted to throw that out there.
They got the God in the New Testament now.
Oh, that's right. So I have a Bible in front of me, and it has numbers from 1 to 1800. 1803. So no commentary, nothing that would make the book thicker or thinner. So I took the liberty of going through the book and finding the beginning of Matthew. The beginning of Matthew starts at page 1500. So for the first 1500 pages, it's not really important to me because I should only keep, study, and read New Testament, which is 300 pages. So, out of the whole entire book, I'm throwing away 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of the Bible if the New Testament is 1 unit. So I got 5 out of 6. I broke it down. It's about 6 units in this Bible, right? And I'm going to use 1. And I'm good. How do you separate yourself? How do you call yourself a separated being? How do you call yourself holy? And then I'll glance in there and find a verse and read a little bit of it. But I really don't want to take it to heart because Paul said,
That's 16% of the Bible.
16% of the Bible. Lauren just did a mathematical thing here.
That much?
Oh, that's that 1/10?
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
16%. Okay, let's read Numbers.
Start at 1.
Yes.
Now Korah, the son of Izhar, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi, and Dathan, and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, and On, the son of Pelah, sons of Reuben, took men, and they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, You take too much upon you, seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Yahuwah is among them. Wherefore then lift ye up yourself above the congregation of Elohim. And when Moses heard it, he fell upon his face, and he spake unto Korah and unto all his company, saying, Even tomorrow Elohim will show who are his, and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him, even him who he has chosen will he cause to come near unto him. This do, take your censers, Korah, and all his company, and put fire therein, and put incense in them before Elohim tomorrow. And it shall be that the man who Elohim does choose, he shall be holy. Ye take too much upon you, you sons of Levi.
He called them sons of what?
Sons of Levi.
All right. Just want to make sure that's what he said.
Okay. And Moses said unto Korah, Hear, I pray you, you sons of Levi. Seemeth it but a small thing unto you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel to bring you near to himself to do the service of the tabernacle of the Elohim, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them. And he has brought you near to him, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee, and seek you the priesthood also. And for which cause both you and all your company are gathered together against Elohim. And what is Aaron that you murmur against him? And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abiram, the sons of Eliab, which said, We will not come up. It is a small thing that you have brought us up out of a land that flows with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, except you make yourself altogether a prince over us? Moreover, you have not brought us into a land that flows with milk and honey, or given us in inheritance of fields and vineyards. Will you put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up. And Moses was very wroth, and said unto Elohim, Respect not their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said unto Korah, Be thou and all thy company before Elohim, thou and they, and Aaron tomorrow, and take every man his censer, and put incense in them, and bring ye before Elohim every man his censer, 250 censers, you also and Aaron, each of you his censer. And he took every man his censer and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the glory of Elohim appeared unto all the congregation.
Okay, so hold on for a minute.
Okay.
So let's paint the picture, make it clear. These people they had a position. They had renown. They had names. Like, this was Dr. such and such, and this is Dr. so and so. You know, all the preachers nowadays, they got these names. Well, these people have their names, and they were supposed to be all keeping Torah, but they had an issue with the one person. So Moses had found himself in a situation where they were accusing him, and he said, kind of sounds familiar, right? He said, I haven't taken one ass from them. I haven't done anything to hurt them. And why do they think that they should be elevated to this next level? They just want to be called priests. If this is the case, he got hot, ticked off, right? Rightfully so. But this happens in the kingdom, even in our gatherings, right? Where we don't accept the authority because we want to be the authority. Or, in the book, it also says, all of us we can all be the head. We can all teach. We can all preach. We can all be the boss. We can all lead. It says it right there in the book. Moshe got ticked off. So when you see this, this is live in living color. And this is our people. It happens, what's the word? Cyclical. Over and over. We just don't get out of it.
Stiff-necked and stubborn.
Stick-necked, stubborn, stick-necked.
Stiff-necked.
Stiff-necked. Some kind of neck.
I started that.
Stick-neck.
Stiff-necked and stubborn. We refuse to, when the army is rising up, we all have to look at our position. There's no different. God sees you in your position and honors you for whatever that position may be. You don't get extra credit because you're the leader of the pack. You may be the point man. Everybody know what a point man is? A point man is go back to my TV show, right? The point man is the first guy that leads the troop into the swamp, into the jungle. He's the guy that we don't know if there's a minefield up there.
You gonna find out.
If he steps on it, it's a minefield.
Yeah.
Literally, you would see the guy walking, peeing himself, pooping himself, hoping that he makes it across, because if he didn't, he's done. Next, who's the next point man? No one wants that position, right? But that's the position that he was called to do. And he wasn't even the top rank, because the captain wasn't going out there. They're like, okay, next, you go, right? And but everything's done in order. So whoever the person is that goes out there, he's being honored for his position, right? We all have to fall in suit and fall in line. And this is a message this is the message has switched from the outsiders to the insider. This is an inside conversation. This is for Hebrew Israelites. This isn't for just everybody, right? This is for the ones that call themselves walking with Yah. Because the problem is, if you allow this to happen, then you become a backslider in the congregation. Continue.
20, right?
20.
And Yahweh spake unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from among this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. And they fell upon their faces and said, O Yahweh, the Elohim of spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and will you be brought with all the congregation? And Elohim spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the congregation, saying, Get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. And Moses rose up and went unto Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, Depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and touch nothing of theirs, lest you be consumed in all their sins. So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan and Abiram, on every side. And Dathan and Abiram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives and their sons and their little children. And Moses said, Hereby ye shall know that Elohim has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own mind. If these men die the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then Elohim hath not sent me. But if Elohim make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that appertain unto them, and they go down quick into the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked Elohim. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, and their houses, and all the men that appertain unto Korah, and all their goods. And they and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation.
So there's the end. And it actually, when you read it, it's like they didn't even die. They went straight to the pit. And it's just a warning for us. Like, there's times that we have to do exactly what he said do. He picked them out. He said, separate from them. So, that's part of our calling. Our calling is to be ye separated. Be ye separated and come and join to him. And then if that happens, it happens. We just calling it out as we see it. What are the qualifications and the disqualifications of following Yah? And some of the qualifications: love, peace, mercy. Some of the disqualifications: turning your back on him, start following, worshiping idolatry, idols, and turning your back on the leadership and thinking that following the line of Korah. And that's not even an easy thing to look at and to preach and talk about, because now you're talking about people in your own gathering. But he called us to be a peculiar people, set apart for his purpose. And all are welcome into his flock. All can become one, but they all have to follow one law. So when you read through the book of Ephesians and you see this, you can't read through Ephesians without going back into the Old Testament. Because that's where it comes from. The unity that's found, and that Corinthians is written to Corinthians, to a people that have turned away, so were living such a raunchy life that he had to start straightening them out. It's like, whoa, slow it down. If you really going to follow Yah, you got to do it this way. There's only one way. There's only one L. There's only one baptism. We've gotten to the point now that it's all over the place. We baptizing people in anything. Just this week, I saw a report. They have a mass. You know what a mass is? A service? A Beyonce mass.
Oh, yeah.
What?
You heard of Beyonce, the singer?
Beyonce mass? No.
Yeah, they're having a mass, and they're singing. They sing all Beyonce music.
Wow.
Some people might like that, because I went to a gathering at a Super Bowl event, and Beyonce was playing halftime, and they were so enthralled over her doing her witchcraft that she got more attention than the football players. Matter of fact, they were like, "No, quiet, quiet." Yeah. Beyonce singing. I was like, "Really?" Huh?
That was the first lady of the church.
And that was the first lady of the church.
Beyonce's one.
I was like, "Oh my goodness." That's why she was a little bit taken off to see me in the presence, because she didn't want anybody else to interfere with her Beyonce worship. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
I'll close on that note.
Wow.
So I have a question about the sons of Korah. They were the sons of Levi. And Moshe, at this one point, he's like, is this not enough for you? Like, you already are separate. You already have your place, and you come against me. Right? So that's what he's saying there?
Yes.
And then the one part that was the question, but I think it's interesting because as soon as they got out of their lane, he said, you're not just coming against me, you're coming against Yah.
Exactly.
At that point.
And there's a key point there that they were looking at Yah. I mean, looking at Moshe or Moses, but Moses wasn't the person that they were really offended by. They were offended at God that he wasn't letting all of them have the authority that he had. Got to remember about Moshe. These gifts that he was given were gifts that he could use like at a drop of a dime. He could always drop his staff and turn it into a snake. He could always put his hand in and pull it out and turn it into a lightning bulb hand, white hand. These gifts were given to him. They seen him. They seen him come down from the mountain, and his whole face was glowing like a light bulb. They had to cover his face because it was shining so bright. They saw some of the things that he was given. He had, like, if you want to say supernatural powers, he was Superman. He had supernatural powers. They were mad that they had a position, but their position wasn't like we should be where he at. And so envy, jealousy set into the priest's hearts. That's what was so evil about it. These people they were already being exalted. They were in a higher spot, but they didn't want to stay in their lane. And so stepping out of that, they want to now accuse him. And what are you going to do next? Take him down, then you're going to take down Aaron, and then you're going to take down Elohim? I mean, that's the mindset, right? Take down whoever's on top.
Oh, it was the same sin that Hasatan committed, and
that spirit.
Yeah.
The same spirit.
Yeah.
I will rule. I will rule.
I will be like.
I'll be like him.
The Most High.
So to me as an elder, it's imperative that I stay humble. To anybody that's coming along our walk, stay humble. And then if you're elevated, you stay in your lane. That's why I have certain people that I can reach out to that are my superiors, that I will reach to and I'll talk to. I'll be careful not to say harm to them or to talk negative about them, because they are in their walk and I see y'all using them. I stay out of their way. I will not talk bad about them, because that's not my job. My job is to teach the script as much as y'all has given me the ability to teach and move forward. And if you, when you start that, you'll find yourself that you won't be the only one believing it. Look at Carr. They had 250 of them. But the end results were, not only were they hurting themselves, they hurt their wives, they hurt their kids, they all took part of their sin. And so the script says, when you see it, come out from amongst it and be ye separate. Just like it says about us if we're in the church, get out of it and be ye separate, because you will be a partaker of the calamity that's coming. And that calamity is not a pretty thing. And this is the same, I'm going to say it again, this is the same God yesterday, today, and forever. He has not changed. When he came the first time, he came as a lamb. He came to prepare himself a vessel to take on to be the atonement for our sins. When he comes back the second time, he's coming back as a lion. He's coming back as a roaring lion. He's coming to kill. Yes, God kills, and he's going to come and kill. So we need to be careful of our mindset, because as a man thinketh, he speaks in his heart. I mean, in his mouth, come out of his mouth, he speaks, but what speaks is what's coming out of his heart. Right? Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. So, caution. You know, the robot in the TV show, Lost in Space. Danger. Look out. Danger, Mr. Robinson. Danger. You are in danger if you go to a Sunday morning worship service. You are in danger if you don't keep Torah. You are in danger if you think because I came to Jesus Christ, I'm saved, and I live in sin. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.